Maybe marriage is going to be in his future, but Paul Pierce says, nah.
If you're not trying to make a family, then you can probably get through life without being married.
Poor people can and should be married simply because they can build together.
Life is easier when you have a partner to share and build and grow with.
It's never too late for love.
We got to stop lying to the American people because unfortunately, a lot of people aren't building wealth in marriage. If we're going to transition to our next story, right, about Paul Pierce, right, in regards to what he was talking about marriage being only for old people, right? But in the previous topic, he was also somebody who said, for relationships, the only utility he saw was sex, right? And when I heard him say that, you know what I heard? I heard nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different ways. A nigga who just did not see certain things growing up. A nigga who got money really quickly. A nigga who saw, maybe who felt like he was used for money and was not able to cultivate real relationships with real people. So in the world that he lives in, he's going to characterize and make people into caricatures. So that's how it shows up. But even underneath that hurt, I can still see it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Now, for him, he's a little older and maybe past the point of problem of healing. Maybe, I don't know, because he don't sound like somebody who want to heal. But he is an old nigga, right? Or he's about to be an older nigga. So maybe marriage is going to be in his future. But Paul Pierce says, nah, for right now, I'm good on that. Because marriage is only for poor people and old people. Again, now, he also said his mom was not married until she was the age of 70. Which means that for him, he grew up in a household that he maybe didn't see that, right? You see what, you know what I'm saying? So what are y'all thoughts in regards to, do y'all think, number one, Paul Pierce is like George Taylor, still need to work through some of his triggers and hurt, but that's not the real question. Do you think marriage is only for poor people and old people? What are y'all thoughts on that?
I mean, I understand the argument. And the argument being, people say you should get married because you get a tax benefit, or you should get married so you don't die alone, right? If you have an NBA player money and you manage it right, then you don't have to worry about the tax benefits. You be smart with your money. If you pay for like long-term care, you probably don't have to worry about dying alone either. There'll be a nurse there. You know what I mean? So he's got a point. He probably does not need it. If he's not trying to have kids, honestly, if you're not trying to make a family, then you can probably get through life without being married. You probably could. You can probably have partners and do some other things and be successful in business or whatever and not be married. But if you're trying to build a family, then whether you're young or old, I don't know, that seed be dusty, but do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Then, yeah, I think that's the right thing. I hope I answered the question. I was going to say something petty about Paul Pierce being stabbed in the back by love, but it seemed a little too soon, a little too on the nose.
Too soon? So, that was 20 years ago.
Well, I don't know. For Paul, it was just like yesterday. So anyway, go ahead.
That's why he got the hurt Negro syndrome. Is that where that place of hurt is coming from?
Hurting people hurt people. Hurt people hurting people. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm wrong.
I'll jump in and just say this. I think that a fool was speaking. And when fools speak, people tend to listen for some strange reason because they have money and because they're in a position where they're determined to be high value. And so therefore, a young fool grows up to be a middle-aged fool, grows up to be an old-ass fool. And so to me, he's on the fool's track. And I think he's going to self-correct the fool's track once he's old as hell. And he realized that he might need a nurse with a purse or a hospice wife, because at that point, he's like, oh, shit, I'm all by myself and no one likes me. I don't even like me. And so I think that at some point, he's going to come and say, oh, I might have been wrong. I'm actually glad that he's had his mother as an example. I actually went to a wedding of somebody who was 72 and 75. And I was like, wow, I love this. This old people love, right? And it's great to see them finding each other. And it turns out they kind of got married, though, because they needed each other to take care of each other because their kids wasn't really taking care of each other or taking care of them. And so then it became a necessity. So I think he's wrong. I actually believe that poor people can get married and should be married simply because they can build together. So we always talk about building legacies and so forth, right? And if we can't allow that to happen at a young age, then I say this because I got married young. I ain't gonna lie. I was 21 and my husband was 23.
But
so I might be talking from a
right?
position of bias, right?
But y'all was still poor though, right?
Well, we were in college.
I mean, yeah.
And so,
You still qualify.
Exactly. That's why I said I may be talking from a
Yeah.
position of biasness, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, look at me now. Fuck you, Paul Pierce. And so, anyways, maybe not say it that way. Let me be nicer. With that being as nice as I can possibly say, sir, you need to go to that place of hurt and you need to grab it, hold it, embrace it, and then let it go. Like Frozen, let it go, let it go. And so that you can grow and hopefully grow old with someone who you actually like. Because to be honest, you sound like you don't like women. And if I had to say this, I would be on the fan of you might be gay, but that would be wrong. But that would be wrong because I don't know. And that would be wrong to say that. And so I'm going to give you the benefit of doubt, Paul. May you be blessed.
Not have a blessed day.
What's happening? What say you to you then?
You know what? Coincidentally, I actually understand what he's saying. As a single person, a single parent, right? I was married, but divorced and still very young, still very young in a small time frame. I was married to a partner who didn't like to work, but that's another story. But nonetheless, I understand that when I was single and a parent, that I remember having these moments like, if I was married, I wouldn't be struggling this way, right? If I had a partner, then this little $20 that I need wouldn't be so hard to get. The small things would be easier with somebody else. So I understand that he's not wrong. Does it make it a negative because that's true? Like, no, we live in a world where gas in California is $6.19. I'd rather share that with somebody than be on my own trying to kick down $150 a week in my gas tank, right? Like, life is easier when you have a partner to share and build and grow with. And I think that's the nigga in him that misses out on that. I also think that he's not wrong either about being 70 or, the older you get. Statistics show that the primary number of people in nursing homes are men and they're single. And so if you look at that, yeah, you're right. When you've tricked and kicked it and partied your whole life or just decided not to be involved and have a wife or have kids, that's cool. But when you get to 70, you're going to want someone to wipe your ass and say good morning to you. And I think that goes for men and women, right? So I think that he's not wrong, but I think the way he shapes it as if marriage is not necessary outside of that is just him being triggered and having his own trauma that he needs to deal with. So I kind of agree and don't at the same time.
I don't think marriage is for poor people. It's definitely the best way for people to accumulate wealth, versus, like in his case with athletes, you get your money up front and then, you play ball for a couple of years. Hopefully you're responsible with it. And, you know, hopefully it's a bunch of baby mamas don't take it all from you, if you're lucky. So it's the best way for people to not be poor for most people. And the second part is, I think he kind of misses out on is, I think like 86, 87% of millionaires are married. So, and those are not talking about athletes, those are like business people, professionals. So those guys probably know something Paul Pierce doesn't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. Now, in his case, yeah, it probably does make sense. Listen, I've already got all my bread. I'm already up. I don't plan on having kids. Marriage just doesn't make sense. You can be the girlfriend. We can go to the Oscars. We can go to the ESPYs. Just don't have any males in here because then we get to that whole common law thing and then you're fucking up the bag. So you go stay over there. I'll buy you a place. Just don't have anything sent here from Amazon. Right. So in his case, I get and it makes sense for him. But for most people, I don't think that's the case. And to the older people point, I think, listen, it's never too late for love. I just went to a wedding last week. I think they're both in their early 60s. They were both widowed and they found love and they're going to rock out together for as much time as they have left. So I think that's cool too. Like I said, you don't want to be in the nursing home alone by yourself and crashing out. So.
First of all, we got to stop lying to the American people, okay? Because unfortunately, a lot of people aren't building wealth in marriage, right? I know that that's a selling point, and I do get that. But I loved how Delvin ended it by saying to not be broke. So it doesn't have to be building wealth. It could just be to help you stave off inflation. It could be to not be broke, right? Now,
Positive.
if you have financial literacy and the tools, the wherewithal, and financial discipline, then yes, you can get together and build wealth. You guys get together and get a plan. But like when I hear numbers like how many percentage of Americans don't have $1,000 in their bank account for an emergency, that tells me that, and many of them are married too, so not just single people, that tells me that we're not really building a lot of wealth. So I think we just got to be a little bit more honest, right, about that part, right? So I want to say that, right? Now, I think what's implicit here to me is that if I am a rich man of a certain age and status, that maybe marriage is not for him, right? Or for me. And I'm not going to disagree with that. That may sound kind of fucked up to say to a certain extent, but there are legitimately ways that I could move if I want companionship, right? Without putting my assets at risk. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that there's prenups and all that, but we've also seen a history where people find a way to get through those or make your life a little bit more. So if you're able with power and prestige to be able to have a concubine or a woman who's willing to serve in that role, if you're willing to take care of her, I mean, I know we're not going to talk about Diddy, even though the case is still starting, but there's a lot of women like, what's the old girl, the rapper, who was cool with just being taken care of and kind of moving around. There's probably going to be women who are cool with just kind of being your main thing without you having to get a ring thing. You dig what I'm saying? So I get why certain men, especially I guess even Paul Pierce, I'm not exactly sure about his whole situation, but if he got a couple of kids out there, he's not looking to have a family necessarily. He's apparently having the best time of his life. So for him, marriage don't make sense. Absolutely. So I can't get mad from his vantage point of what he's saying. And like I said, he's the one that also didn't see his mom getting married till 70. So in his mind, maybe the utility only starts or stops there because that's what he's seeing. So I'm not mad at his vantage point. And I also think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying for men because I've heard guys concerned about it. The problem is for a lot of y'all niggas who don't got the financial resources to be worried about somebody taking half, y'all bringing up this argument doesn't really hold any fucking weight. You dig what I'm saying? So check this out. If you, while you're poor, because I agree with him there, while you're poor, if you build with the sister and then together y'all come up and make millions, you'll probably feel less bad about giving her half. Right? But if you make it before you met her, I'm not mad at your position. But like, now y'all niggas ain't there yet. So yes, it makes sense. So I do agree with him about the poor people thing. 1,000% because if I'm rich and I'm single and able to have what I want, why the fuck would I do that? We got to be honest, y'all, because if we're not honest, people gonna think we out here pushing marriage on some bullshit, right? So we got to be honest enough to say that from a man's position, if he is privileged financially, then there are some pitfalls to him saying, "I do. Hey, I'm gonna put you on my life, on my life insurance. I'm gonna make sure you're straight." I mean, there's some niggas out here just dropping bags. Hey, here's your little something. Matter of fact, give me the Bill Belichick plan. Because apparently Bill Belichick is already 73. So the same shit y'all talking about, you think he get married again? No, he got him a 24-year-old multi-purpose Swiss Army knife. Okay, Shorty take pictures. You know what I'm saying? She probably, book his meal, his plane. She's a fucking PR person, and yes, she's probably wiping his ass, and he has enough money to do that. So not all old people should be getting married. You dig what I'm saying? Now, if you're a poor old person, so guess what? Poor people, poor old people should definitely get married. Okay? Definitely 1,000%. You know what I'm saying? Find somebody that you can just, just be okay with for a little bit until you work through your plan. You got a 10-year plan, you have a 10-year marriage. Okay? You know what I'm saying? So stop playing, man. Yes, he's telling the truth, but y'all don't like the messenger, and I agree, he's not the greatest messenger, but there's a lot of truth in what he's saying, and it's okay for men to acknowledge that, especially in certain situations. And lastly, there are some people who've already been married. If I've already been married, had a family, right? And so now I'm a little bit in my early 50s, and yeah, I want commitment. Yeah, I want a relationship, but what is the point of doing all that? Most of the time, it might be to placate her, but if you got some resources, my brother, I would just make sure you do your due diligence to make sure that she don't stick you for your papers. You know what I'm saying? Damn, why she had to stick you for your papers?
So I want to walk back a small portion of my statement because you know what? I didn't take in consideration that his financial means may be the reason why he's on Jezebel.com, right? Because it was just easier. It was more convenient for him, and it's no strings attached, right? Or so he thinks until the Shannon Sharp situation come up from OnlyFans, and next thing you know, clapping them cheeks for $25,000 a piece is now $50 million. But in the interim, now, you know what? So I apologize because you're right in regards to his financial stance and his financial capability that it may not make sense for him or people in the same position with his particular mindset to have a relationship or be married. So I will acknowledge that. I will walk that point.
And in an effort to extend an olive branch, I would just say if a woman out there is financially well-to-do, she also should protect herself, right? If that guy heard the top of the show and decided to buy Ebony K some flowers and gifts for Mother's Day and was able to, work his way into her heart, I would advise Ebony K, girl, get you a prenup, protect yourself. Okay, because you have assets. So it's not just a man-woman thing, but I guess that the expectations of man's a protector and a provider. So a lot of times those guys are the ones who are making more money. And so it makes sense for them to protect themselves. But I do actually think, and S&M, I'm gonna push back on you too. A lot of times young people are poor people. I don't think he was excluding young people, right? Because I'm a big proponent for people to get married earlier. As I get it, the shift is moving later. But if it's possible, if we can create healthy human beings a little bit sooner who are less traumatized, then maybe they could navigate life and find each other at an earlier point in life. Because there are some people who got married relatively young, maybe had a 15, 20-year marriage. Even if it didn't work out, they still had the family, they still had the experiences. And then guess what? They're still our age. Like, I'm outside. You know what I'm saying? My old ass got a 3-year-old. I'm inside. So it's like, you got to pick your poison a little bit. So I get it. Sometimes people already have the experience. They've already ridden the ride or rode the ride, right? They're like, I'm good, man. You know what I mean?
So any final thoughts on this before I jump into the next protector?
Keep shooting
I
the
got
ball.
one. I got a brief one. And that is, this is a little free game, okay? America is a corporation. The world is kind of a corporate entity in how it does business and transactions or whatever. So if you're not a business, right? You don't have plans to make a business. You're not an entrepreneur. You don't have some invention or some innovation. Then marriage should probably be your business, and that should probably be how you look at it. And y'all should work that thing. So yeah, poor people, old people, broke people, whatever.
And Oprah, you don't need to protect yourself from me. I got you.
Not the Oprah.
You don't need a prenup, Oprah.
My brother aiming high. I said this BK.
I was like, you might have to ask, what's his name, to step out the way.
Devin ain't going nowhere.
That's it. Facts.
He ain't
Dora
going
Gale.
We've been singing all day.
He ain't going nowhere.
Got to put it out there.
He can't be stopped.
Bad boy
It
for
is
life.
Stedman for life.